something I can call you about tomorrow? Okay.
Comment.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Miriam.
So let me pull it up. I'm going to read the letter that my husband, Rob Kibler, and I submitted. This is Miriam DeFont at 74 Pratt Corner Road. I'm trying to pull it up if I can find it. I had it a second ago. Give me 1 second. Hang on. I know it's open, but it disappeared on me. There we go. So this was a letter that we submitted to the select board on October 6th. So I'm going to read this letter, and then I have just a brief comment to add to it. So dear select board, we are writing in response to the complaint about the Black Lives Matter banner at Town Hall that was raised by a resident at the September 29th meeting. We were not present at the September 15th meeting when this was initially discussed, and so we're not familiar with all the details of this.
Can I pause you there, please? My understanding is there's an agenda on the meeting here, and 525 is the Black Lives Matter portion, and there might be people who are. This is James McNaughton. If you've got an agenda that expresses the Black Lives Matter at 525,
It's
it would seem that
the 525 is related to a letter regarding Black Lives Matter.
Correct. And there may be people chiming in at that time, and they might want to hear this at that time. Does that make sense? Otherwise, they might not be privy to what is being said here, which I think is contextually important.
Melissa, I still think this is part of public comment.
I do too, because I think the letter that's being read isn't the letter that we're going to go over, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I still think it's public comment. Go ahead, Miriam.
Thank you.
Rita, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Miriam, go ahead.
Thank you. And I just want to make clear that the statement I'm reading reflects our personal views and not the views of any town committee.
Thank you.
We were not present when this issue was initially raised, and so we're not familiar with all of the details of the complaint, but we wish to express our strong support for the banner. This banner in no way deprives anyone of their rights, nor does it devalue anyone. Racist rhetoric on social media has attempted to mischaracterize the Black Lives Matter movement as a violent, racist in its own right, or anti-law enforcement movement. It is none of these things. Rather, it represents an attempt to raise awareness of historic systemic racism, which has devalued the lives of people of color and deprived them of their civil and human rights. The Black Lives Matter movement seeks justice for a group of people who have been disenfranchised, discriminated against, and persecuted. Anyone with a reasonable amount of empathy should recognize that there is nothing intrinsically polarizing, partisan, or controversial about the Black Lives Matter message. We believe it is incumbent upon all government officials and institutions, whether they be local, state, or federal, to step up and proactively embrace anti-racism and social justice reforms. We were very glad to see our town affirming the intention to be part of the solution. We hope you will not be persuaded to step back from this public display of decency and humanity. Best, Miriam DeFont and Rob Kibler, 74 Pratt Corner Road. I would just add to this, I guess, that we have a further concern that it's important for local and state governments, as well as federal government, to speak up on behalf of civil rights, and that we don't believe this is a partisan issue. We believe this is a good governance issue and responsible governance issue. And we would hope that the town government would recognize their responsibility to speak up on behalf of civil rights, and not be persuaded that this is a partisan issue. If this is a partisan issue, then everything is a partisan issue, or potentially a partisan issue if someone raises a concern. And I don't think we should be reducing ourselves to the lowest common denominator when it comes to human rights. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking, Miriam. Next hand, I see Ella and then John. Go ahead, Ella.
Hi, I'm also reading something, so if you see me looking down, I'm like paying attention.
Could,
Yes, Linda.
yes, I need Ella's full name, please.
Oh, Ella De Silva Beal,
Thank you.
Desilva.
Thank you, Ella.
You're welcome.
May I ask if your statement has been submitted online?
No, it hasn't. I wrote it for public comment.
Okay, would you be willing to, this is Linda Ava Scott, I'm the administrative secretary. And so it would be really helpful if you would be able to email your comment to the select board so we can have the written comment for the record.
Okay, do you want me to wait until after I read it or before?
You can do it after, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Cool. Hi, my name's Ella. I work at the library, so you might have known me from there. I'm also an ARHS senior. I'm strongly against taking the Black Lives Matter sign down from Town Hall. When I was at a recent select board meeting, I heard someone say that Black Lives Matter is a political statement and that they don't support the movement. To be honest, I see that as thinly veiled racism. All this statement, Black Lives Matter, is saying is that our town doesn't condone systemic racism and racism in the policing of the United States. This sign needs to stay up until this statement is true, until Black lives do matter as much as white ones in the view of the United States government and by the citizens of this country. This sign needs to stay up until a mother doesn't need to worry about her Black son going to the store to get milk, until I no longer need to look behind me to see if the person pulled over isn't white, to see if I need to bear witness and make sure that they aren't killed. This sign needs to stay up until the US police understand that being Black isn't a crime. People mentioned the Black Lives Matter protesters as violent and destructive, but let's get a few things clear. First, this movement and its protests have been overwhelmingly peaceful, but in a small percentage of cases where there has been vandalism, it's a little bit weird to me that everyone's so focused on the destruction of items and rather than the lives that have been lost. Does a car's window needing to be replaced really matter more than a life? More than the effect that the murder has on that person's family or their community, or the millions of people of color who are affected by police violence, hate crimes, and other forms of racism and violence every single day? In an earlier select board meeting, a Shutesbury resident who's Black said that when she saw this sign, she felt truly safe in Shutesbury for the first time in her life. This just shows how important this statement is to people of color everywhere. When people say that this sign needs to stay up, it means that they want people of color to feel safe in our town. That's just it. When people say that it offends them, why is that? Since the arguments in opposition don't ring true to me and aren't supported by evidence, I have to wonder, is it because people feel threatened by Black people finally being truly equal to white people? My last statement is very important to me. I actually have multiple signs in my room that have this statement on it because I think it covers a lot of topics. And it's that more rights for you doesn't mean less rights for others. It's not pie.
Thank you, Ella. I appreciate that. And just remember to send that to selectboard@shrewsbury.org. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
John, you were next.
Yes, with respect, Miriam, go to the blacklivesmatter.com website, which I know doesn't cover everybody who marches figuratively under the banner. And among the flashing things going by is a hashtag defund the police campaign. And I've heard interviews from prominent leaders of Black Lives Matter, either local chapters or who claim some kind of leadership of the entire movement. They mean that literally. They mean abolish the police. So the idea that they are not pushing an anti-police narrative is simply not correct. And they are also promulgating the false, demonstrably false narrative. Black people are in existential danger of police violence whenever they leave the house. That is not true. There are researchers who have, at instances, tragic, many of them terrible occurrences, all of them regrettable, but the actual number physically attacked or killed by the police is small. It is a small number. And you know who knows that most? It is the Black residents of inner cities who consistently speak out in favor of more policing for their community because they know that it's more policing that protects them, not policing, which allows more crime, including murder, to fester in many of our inner cities, where upwards of 25, 35, 50% increases in violence and homicides, all against Blacks, have taken place. If you to look at one face that I think counters the narrative best, it's on my blog. It's the Minneapolis High School principal who is addressing her students like she does every day. And she does so the day after the third Minneapolis student in the schools was killed in street violence over the course of 5 weeks. And she not having it when it comes to mobilizing and defunding the police, because she knows better than any of us here how important policing is to maintain order, safety for her students. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Melissa, this is Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm
Mind if
on the phone, so.
do you mind
Can
if
you-
I change your name on your phone number?
Oh, yeah, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So first, I just want to acknowledge you guys got the letter that I sent to you all last week.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm pulled over on the side of the highway, so I don't have my letter, but I think two things I wanted to say. I'm strongly, massively in support of keeping the banner up. And for me, it's principle. I have to say I am exceedingly proud to live in a town where someone like Ella, who is a young leader in our town, can be as eloquent and forceful. She characterized everything that I would want to say. And I think if we take down a sign that says Black Lives Matter, we're throwing away the future, because Ella expressed exactly why it's important. Two things I would say in particular. If one agrees, which I think it's pretty straightforward, but if one agrees that there is structural racism and historic bias and injustice for people who are Black, then what needs to happen is the status quo needs to change. Something proactive has to happen. And I believe that putting up the banner was actually an act of courage by the select board, and it was that proactive activity. Taking it down basically reinforces the status quo. If an argument's made, well, town government should do nothing. Well, nothing is not objective. Nothing enforces the status quo. And if we're trying to embrace safety and equality for everyone who lives in town, then what we have to do is actually be proactive and change the status quo if we assume that the status quo is unjust. So that's why I think it's important that you put it up, and why I think it's important that it stays up. I think secondarily, Ella said something that's really important, which is for people who are objecting and saying that it's not appropriate and the town should take a stance. I don't know, but I think it's worth asking, why are people objecting to a statement that says Black Lives Matter? We are trying to sort of embrace the fact that everyone should be safe and equal in America, and acknowledging that we haven't. So I would really support you keeping it up. I would be very disappointed, and I think it would actually be caving to pressure of wanting to keep racism and injustice as a status quo, and that would be the wrong direction. So I didn't say it as eloquently as in my letter, and I know it's in the files there, but thank you for taking the time and having open comment.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your comments.
Implied that I'm a racist, and I'm sick of it.
No, it's not. You had your comment. It was
So-
okay. You made a comment. May I say
James
something?
McNaughton would like to comment.
Hold on, I'm going to do Azelle first and then you, John, okay?
Yeah,
James.
James, I'm sorry, James.
Sure.
I'm not going to rehash. I think, again, I'll say what Michael said. Ella said it beautifully, as well as Miriam. But the one thing I would like to clarify, and I've heard this discussed at length since the last 6 months, certainly since George Floyd was murdered, that defund the police does not mean X out the police. It does mean move funding around so that social services are involved in certain calls, so that police aren't the only ones involved in every single call, that funding could go to social services that could better serve those very communities that you're talking about, John. And I just think that has to be clarified. I've heard that many times by many leaders, and to jump at the groups that jump at that phrase, defund the police, and start lighting fires about it. Oh, then we're not going to have any. That is not what it's saying. From Reverend Barber to Cory Booker to every strong political leader in the Black movement and in government, they're being very clear that it's about shifting the funding from a militaristic type of practice to a more socially civic practice. That's it. All the rest, I'm so happy to see the sign up there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Azelle. James, I've lost track of you on the screen. I know you have a phone number. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not on Zoom. I'm just on phone. So.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, there's a few things here for me, and one is the way in which the banner went up. It didn't feel like it was transparent. It didn't feel like that the townspeople were included in the decision-making process. Mm-hmm. And I find that has been a consistent shortcoming of our town government, is the lack of transparency and proactivity in communication and allowing opinions to be heard proactively and ahead of the curve, if you will. We're behind. We're on the other side of the curve at this point in time. We're reacting to something that happened historically. So that's something that I would like to see change in town. The other thing that I want to state is that it seems presumptuous to put up a banner in our town which would suggest that the entirety of our town is behind that banner. And if I were to ask, hey, I want to put up a Tea Party sign, a Joe Biden sign, a Trump sign, whatever it was, I think that we should have a clear process for presenting to the public, everyone who drives through our town, what our town suggests as being what they believe in. And I think that we have a diverse array of people with different opinions in our town. And I think by the way that the decision was made, it does not seem like it was democratic. And so that concerns me. So I would like to see that change. I don't feel like the Black Lives Matter sign in town represents my opinion, and I'm a taxpayer. As I've watched Black Lives Matter, those three words, of course, everybody can kind of get behind that. But I believe that that's a clever propaganda that organization has used. And we've seen cities burn across our country, and the footprints and the signs and the banners have been all over that. So I think that you could at least, we could get into the weeds here and argue and try to get to what the organization is really based upon, but the behavior and what we've seen is very different than those three words. I can get behind the three words, Black Lives Matter. I cannot get behind the actions that have been exemplified by those who are carrying that banner, who have been burning and looting, and there's been bloodshed in our streets in many of the cities. So when I see that sign, it does not resonate with those three words, which I completely believe in, that Black Lives Matter. I also believe in the freedom of speech, and that anybody throughout this town can put a lawn sign on their lawn, totally fine. That's your free expression of your own opinion. But when the town embraces a particular political point of view or a particular organization and puts that banner up on the town hall, without the input of the entirety of our community, that does not feel like it is an appropriate approach. And that's where I would challenge the town here. And the decision-making process does not feel like it has included the entirety of the populace. And that does not feel okay to me as a taxpaying citizen. So those are my comments.
Thank you, James, very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to make, Melanie, I do see your hand. Hang on one second. I have to switch screens. There's so many people on. Okay, go ahead, Melanie. Melanie?
Yeah, this is Melanie De Silva. I live at 291 Wendell Road, and I just wanted to clarify a couple things. I think that there's a basic misunderstanding, which is actually kind of ends up being kind of fed and perpetuated by right-wing propaganda that about what Black Lives Matter is. And first and foremost, Black Lives Matter isn't an organization. It's a global decentralized movement. And I think that the idea that there could be like a movement called Black Lives Matter, that, you know, the name isn't trademarked, anyone can own it, anyone who is committed to anti-racism work, you know, is within the umbrella of Black Lives Matter. It's got a very, very broad, diverse base. It's now considered the largest social movement in US history, with between 15 and 26 million people participating in anti-racism marches, vigils, activities over the course of the summer. There's also an organization called Black Lives Matter Foundation that was formed sometime after, you know, the initial 3 Black women who, you know, started this movement with a hashtag, a Twitter hashtag. You know, they decided they were going to create this foundation. The foundation and the principles of the foundation are, of course, related to the movement, but are not the movement. There are, you know, people of all different, you know, political persuasions, different parties, Republicans, Democrats, you know, all different parties globally, people who are socialists, people who are capitalists, people who fall somewhere in between, who are part of this, you know, large evolving movement to do anti-racism work. So I wanted to point that out. There's also really clear evidence that the vast majority of protests over the summer were peaceful. There is excellent, excellent research that was done, that was released last month, a report by a global political violence. They study political violence. That's all they do. They're a think tank. And that's all they do. And they put out research, as have others, you know, talking about how these protests have been almost entirely peaceful. But there's been an agenda, a right-wing agenda, to push a lot of media coverage that these were violent protests. And we, of course, whenever there is violence, we see a lot of coverage of that in the media. But that's actually absolutely 100% not true. And then the last thing that I want to mention is that one of the things that's really pushed as a right-wing propaganda piece is this one particular study. And it's something that was mentioned in John's blog, this one particular outlier study that they like to talk about, which showed that African Americans are not more likely to be killed by the police than white Americans. And not only is that study an outlier, but the other thing that they don't talk about is what that study showed is that Black Americans were more likely to be subject to every other form of violence short of deadly force than white Americans. And so even the study that they consistently use to try to prop up their position doesn't validate their position. And of course, there are dozens of studies that reveal over and over and over again that Black Americans are more likely to be injured or killed by the police than white Americans. And so I think that it's really, really important that we look at the evidence, we look at the data, we understand Black Lives Matter as being what it is, which is a decentralized global movement that we all own. So that's what I wanted to just point out.
Hold on one second, Miriam. I just want to make sure there's nobody else that has a new comment at the moment. Looking at hands. Okay, Miriam, I think you'll be the last one because we do.
So Melissa, I had raised my hand by
Oh,
clicking
I'm
the button
sorry.
because I'm sorry I'm not on video. But
Let me have Mary Ann go first and then you, okay?
okay. So so I was the person who originally came and asked you to put up the banner. Just I want to own that, just in case somebody here doesn't know that. But it's so clear to me now that the banner is owned by the whole entire town or by many people in the town. The banner came out of the idea partially came out of a vigil that I organized on the town common with another woman in town, that I think 80 or 90 people came to, and then the select board agreed to put up the banner. And when we put up the banner, it was well publicized. I used all of the resources that I would use to publicize a library program. And at least 100 people came to that event. So while the town or town meeting didn't vote to put up the banner, certainly it was a pretty public process, the actual installation of it. But anyway, I spoke, to you all a couple of weeks ago when we spoke. So the one thing I wanted to mention is that I'm so glad that we're having this conversation in town, because I think conversations about racism are anti-racism work, and we're never going to all agree about everything. But it's good to talk about it. And so one of the things that I've wanted to do is to have a community study group around issues of race and racism. And Elaine Palaio has agreed to help facilitate a study of a book called White Fragility, why it's so hard for people to talk about racism, by Robin DiAngelo. It's a book that's been around for a while. It's a short book. It's excellent. And we have, with donations from a couple of people in town, we've bought a bunch of copies, and a couple of audio copies. And tomorrow I'll be putting out publicity about an initial Zoom meeting for anyone who's interested in reading the book and being part of a study group, to just come together and talk about how it will work. And then we'll come up with a regular, meeting time, and read the book and discuss it together. There's a discussion guide. And it's hard. It's in some ways it's easier to have meetings and discussions on Zoom, and in some ways it's harder. But right now, this is the way that we can come together and talk about things. And so we can do this now, and then maybe we can do another book sometime in the future when we can be together in person. So if you're interested in that, my email address is library.director@shutesbury.org. Email me and I'll get you a copy of the book. And tomorrow I'll put out publicity with more details, so that you can sign up we'll make a list of people for me to send out Zoom links and things like that. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann. Miriam, I'm going to let you be the last person for open comment, because we have a few things on our agenda we have to get through. And Becky, I'm sorry. Did you want to?
I just want to be clear. It is Rita who has a meeting at 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm projecting on the wrong person. Rita has a meeting.
No, but I want to make sure that we're about going on 25 minutes, half hour off our agenda, which is probably short anyway. But if we can not have people make more than one comment, or if we can end it soon, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'm going to end it with Miriam, and go ahead, Miriam. If you can make it quick, that would be helpful.
I will try.
Because I want to make sure Rita gets to where she needs to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of flesh out a comment that I had made in my letter, our letter, that I think it's not enough, and I think a lot of people share this concern, that it's not enough to say that we're not racist or that we don't want to be racist. We have to be anti-racist. And I'm saying this because we all have to think about our language, our implicit biases and assumptions. I've had to do that myself. We live in a racialized society where we all get smeared by racism. And then I would say we all get infected by it. And the only way to combat that infection is to be proactive in seeking it out inside ourselves and taking corrective action. And that's why I think it's so important for government to take this on. I also just want to thank Melanie for making the comments about what the Black Lives Matter movement is and isn't. I think we have to be very, very careful about talking about them and what they want to do and what they think and what their agenda is. Because when we're talking about millions and millions and millions of people, we are not talking about a monolithic point of view or a monolithic political agenda. And to reduce it to a them that we can somehow know is again implicitly racist, that we would presume to know what people of color have experienced and want and feel, or even that they all want and feel the same things. So I would just encourage anybody who's interested to Google continuum of bias, and you'll find some nice graphics out there on the internet that kind of give you a perspective on what it means to be racist versus not racist versus anti-racist. And that we all need to work at it. We can't assume that we're at the far end of wokeness, that we're not. And we don't get bragging rights for that. So that's all I need to say.
Thank you, Miriam. We're going to move on to our Halloween discussion.
Mary Ann.
I was asked about this weekend. So,
Okay.
what thoughts do we have about Halloween? And has the Board of Health weighed in on any of this? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, Mary Ann, are you going to be the person to start this particular conversation?
I think so. I'm the self-appointed Halloween czar. So I've talked to some folks from the PTO, the fire department, and the Board of Health about Halloween. So the CDC has said that trick-or-treating is a dangerous activity in the time of COVID. So trick-or-treating is discouraged, and the Board of Health agrees that trick-or-treating is discouraged. So we've hatched a plan to, but I didn't want to make a public announcement that trick-or-treat was canceled without talking to the select board. So the fire department is not planning on opening the fire station because it's not safe to give out cider and donuts. And so what we've come up with is a plan to have a socially distant costume parade around the elementary school track on Halloween evening. So the firefighters and some library volunteers and some PTO volunteers are all going to work together to manage traffic coming in. We're going to lightly decorate the field, that the track goes around. The fire department's going to bring some lights. We're going to encourage families to come in costume and to parade around the track. And then townspeople are invited to bring commercially wrapped candy to the library. I'll put a bin outside for it. And and then my volunteers, one of them's here on the screen, Ella, will wear gloves and masks and bag up the candy, and children will be able to take a package of Halloween candy, a gift bag of Halloween candy. So they won't be trick-or-treating, but they'll still give candy. I will say that I was going to say no candy, but the Board of Health encouraged me to come up with a safe plan for distributing candy to our children, our community's children. So
Yeah,
that's good.
we can't take all their fun away.
No,
We've had
no.
fun for so long, we can't, you know.
No. So, so that, and I feel, and I have, I have a team of volunteers that can, can wash their hands and put gloves on and put masks on and bag up the candy so that we can have each kid just get candy in one location. We'll put the bags on a table. They'll grab it as they leave the field. And children will have to wear masks, and we will remind them that it shouldn't be their costume mask, which isn't designed to, prevent aerosols.
A second
So,
layer mask.
Yeah, and I'll have masks with me in case somebody shows up without a mask.
Okay.
So that is the plan we've come up with, and I'm happy to do all of the announcing of all of this, but I just didn't want to announce this kind of a big thing without you folks being on board.
Would it be helpful if we took a vote so that it was in public record that we were on board in case anyone had, just so it's official?
I think
Rita?
so.
Rita?
Yeah, I think so.
Do I hear a motion for our Halloween?
I just want to be clear, Marion, you said it was Friday or Saturday?
It's Saturday, so it's going to be on Halloween, in the evening. Okay. People will arrive as it's starting to get dark, and then they'll go around when it's dark, and then I think we will say that everybody will be gone by 7 or 7:15. We're not staying out there all night, but and so I would think that the motion might be something like, trick-or-treating is canceled, and that the community's children are encouraged to participate in the Halloween costume parade being organized by townspeople at the elementary school track. If I were making a motion, I would say something like that.
Okay.
Are you making a motion?
I don't think I'm allowed to.
I don't think
Well,
so.
No.
I think we can take Mary Ann's motion.
The one thing I might just change about the motion, Mary Ann, and sorry to do this, is that the cancel traditional Halloween trick-or-treating. Just to make sure that that's explicit there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I hear the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
That we support the Halloween parade and not have traditional Halloween trick-or-treating.
Okay.
Oh.
And I will second that.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, Mary Ann, for doing that. We appreciate that. And
Thank you.
The kids will have some fun.
Yes. We'll make it as fun as we can.
I understand.
All right. Thank you. And it'll be safe. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So moving on to the select board letter regarding the Black Lives Matter banner. We are making a formal letter to a resident brought some concerns to us. So, and I know we all participated individually with Becky to do that. And Becky has a new draft for us.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
Oh.
So you, Rita, do you have it?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Do you have email?
You want to read it? Is that
okay? Or Melissa, can you put it up?
Oh yeah, give me 1 second. That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Hold on.
If you can do it.
Hold on. Nope. Wrong one. Oh, darn. You would change something.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I put in a comma.
Yep.
And what else? All right. I'll
you'll have to give me, I can share the screen. I don't mind doing that.
Okay, that's probably the best way to do it.
What I emailed out, Melissa, to the select board agenda,
Yep.
I mean, it's the one with the comma and another word change is in your email.
I don't have an email from you.
Leave at 5
I
o'clock.
did get one. It arrived as we were starting.
Oh, okay.
But if you could share the screen, that would be great.
Oh, never mind. I do have it.
Oh, good.
All right, so I'm going to share the screen. So one moment, bear with me. I have to do it here. All right, can you see that? Can everybody see that? Because I can't see that, but
I can see it.
what do you see?
The letters there. Yeah, the letters on the
You
screen.
can see my mouse, right?
Yeah.
Moving? Okay, good. Because I have two screens, so I'm not sure which one it's playing on, but I see it's on my number 2. Okay. So this is the letter that we're writing. And I see one little thing I will format thing, Becky. I'll
Okay.
let you know about that later.
I always try to make your line extra long.
Well, that's fine. How do the 2 select board
I'm
members?
just reading it now.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm
reading.
sorry, I'll give you a break. I'll
Yep. Thank
let
you.
read it.
Yeah.
Rita,
Yep, I'm okay with
You're
that
okay?
letter.
Yeah.
okay. We don't need to vote on the letter, right, Becky, if I remember correctly? We already talked about it.
I think.
Would you contextualize, please, and let the rest of us
Oh, I'm
know
sorry.
out
I'm
here
so-
what
I'm
what you
sorry.
guys are doing,
I'm
what
sorry.
process you're involved in? Yeah.
So,
Can't see this.
John Montanari brought some concerns to the select board, and we needed to do some research on a couple of his questions. And so we've done the research, and we are now responding in a formal way to him. And to do so, the select board can't do a letter together outside of an open meeting because 2 of us are a quorum. So we have to agree on the letter in an open forum, and that's what we're doing right now. Does that give you some
It does, thank you.
Are you looking for some more context?
No, that works, yeah, it would just.
Okay,
felt
so that's what the
confusing.
process is we're doing at the moment. Thank you for asking, James. I appreciate it.
Sure.
No, it looks fine to me.
Okay, there's just a couple of formatting things I'll change with Becky
Okay.
and send back to her because she uses a Mac and I use a Dell, and the 2 do not like each other. So
We will work on that.
yeah, maybe Dell will work on that.
So we can come in tomorrow to sign it?
Yes,
Becky, is
that'd
that
be
okay?
good.
Yeah.
And the vendor warrants are ready.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, so that sounds good.
May
Okay.
I say something?
Who is? I can't see my full screen because I'm
I'm sorry.
sharing.
This is Mr. Montanari himself
Hi,
in
John.
in person, in the third person in this case. May I?
Go ahead.
Thank you for addressing the sort of holistic, issues that I brought to the attention of the select board. I feel that I have been heard and responded to in that regard, and in every regard, not. That none,
You cut out slightly there. I didn't catch the last sentence.
and in every other regard, I don't believe my concerns have been addressed at all. Which does not necessarily mean that the result is I have to get my way. But I really would appreciate a deeper response to the serious and substantive issues I brought to the select board's attention, rather than just saying you have a right to your opinion. And because I'm not alone in this. And I really think a better explanation, even one that does not end up satisfying us in the end, is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, Becky, you'll print this out and such.
Yes. After I fix the line.
Yeah, I'll email you what those two formats is, because I think if I change them, it's just going to revert back to
Yeah,
yours.
and I have it, so I can fix it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to unshare screen. Try it. Let's see.
Thank you for getting it up.
You're welcome. Hold on one second. Bing. Okay, that was successful, I think. I've not done that too much yet. Okay, back to our agenda. The roof, school roof, RFQ.
Okay, so as everyone's aware, the elementary school roof has been leaking for a number of years. I don't want to say decades, but it might not be false. I have been reaching out and found that what we need to do is, because the size of the roof project requires a DCAM certified construction company. We can't just hire our favorite contractor to come in and do the repairs. We have to go through a process that requires a design and engineering, and which would be the first step in moving forward with this project. And what is required in this procurement is an RFQ, request for quotation, but it's done in such a way.
I'm gonna sign off here, Becky. I'm gonna hold you up there. I'm really confused. I heard John chime in. I heard you attempt to contextualize what you guys were all doing with the letter. I heard no wrap up of any of that, and it just moved on, and I'm very confused. And I'm just wondering what just happened. How did you just move on from John's comments and my comments relative to my confusion around what was going on? Where are we at? What just happened? Please explain.
We had decided to sign the letter, and then which was the topic of our agenda, was to discuss the letter, and now we're moving on to the next agenda item.
Okay, so you agreed upon the letter, but we as the public have no idea what that letter states, or how do we get an understanding of, and was that letter issued back to John in response? Is that what you're suggesting? You agreed upon?
It will be. We have to sign it, and Linda will have a copy of it as part of our meeting notes.
Okay, so when will that be available for us to see as the general public, the response that you guys?
When we vote on the minutes at our next meeting, right, Linda? That's the process for that?
Yes, I think it would be helpful to explain that, because it was screen shared. Everyone on Zoom could see it, but people who are on the phone could not.
That's true.
Sure.
So it'll be part of our meeting minutes, notes, and we'll have to have the draft made up of the notes, and then to do our approval of the minutes for our website after that. So after the next meeting, it will be available.
And when can we expect those meeting minutes to be up from here forth in the future? Like, I've gone back, it has been a while, but it does not seem like you folks are kind of keeping up in any proactive fashion. Like sometimes it's months before I can see the minutes for a meeting that has just occurred. Like, so what's the expectation that we as residents can expect relative to these meetings? Like, how soon will they be posted? Is there anything that you can clarify for us, so we aren't just kind of going back over and over and over again looking?
Becky, go ahead. You were gonna.
They're usually approved at the next meeting. It doesn't always happen, but so there's consistently about a 15-day turnaround. We did have some changes in our town clerk office, and a couple items got delayed. But they also, it's a process of, we held the meeting, we try to approve the minutes at the next meeting, and once they're approved, they're sent to the town clerk, and she tries to post them within a day or so of getting the email. But the town clerk's office has been slammed since June, and they're doing, she's doing the best she can to get things up, and they are, they are up now except for this last set of minutes. And we'll try-
Melissa, this is Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Can I just chime in for a minute? Is that all right?
Yeah, well, was it about minutes?
It's very quick. I think it just the concern that it's bureaucratic and non-informative and secretive. The reality is, once the letter is received by the recipient, that person can make it public. It's just that the select board is writing a letter to an individual, and it seems appropriate for that individual, once they receive it, they can do whatever they want with it. So there's two processes. If the concern is people are not going to find out, well, as soon as that letter is received, it can be made public. But, as you said, there's a process for open meeting law, and it's unfortunate that sometimes it takes longer to make it open meeting, but, it can be released by the person once they get it. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, Michael, for helping with that. Okay, so can we move on? James, are you okay with that information?
Yes,
Okay.
Thanks for asking. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, James. So Becky, you were describing we couldn't use our favorite, I think you said favorite roofer to do the work. We have to go through a more formal thing of the requisition.
To select an engineer because of the size of the project, we have to go through a procurement process called an RFQ. This is one thing I haven't done before. And so because this is such a critical project, for the first time, I'm considering and bringing to the select board whether they would hire Andrea Woods from FERCog to assist with it. And I'll also be working with Bruce Turner from the Union 28 office. And I will do the construction bid as I normally do, but because the selection of this engineer is so critical, I was thinking it might be best to do this process, and it comes with a cost, which $720. So that would come out of the building repair fund. So I'm bringing that forward to the select board. I'm really excited Jessica's on the line. She's been at the, she's the one sending all the alerts and emergency alarms about the condition of the roof. So I think if we can start with this initial step and get going from there on to a construction bid and get a sense before town meeting what the potential cost is to repair. And we'll come together on that with as we go. But the first step is to get the engineer and designer selected and on board to help us with this critical project.
And do you need us to give you official permission to go forward with this?
I would appreciate it. I will also be, I've had some conversations with the school folks. I'll have more. I talked to Bruce and Jackie and Jess. I haven't specified this specific process, but we've been talking about the best way to move forward. And I think this is it.
So why don't I make a motion that we accept the RFQ for the school roof with help through FERCog, and with a cost of $700 some odd dollars coming out of the building committee.
Good. And should we put in there that we give Becky permission to go forward with working with them, just in case she needs it from us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and this is coming from the building repair fund.
Right, coming from building repair fund.
Building repair, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Can I just clarify? So the motion is to engage the Franklin County Regional Council
governments, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So I second April's motion.
Okay. Do we have any other further questions or such? No? Okay. All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Jessica, thank you for being our eyes on the ground there. Thank you. And Becky, thank you for working with FERCog on this.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And now we're on to CARES Act funds.
Okay. I wanted.
Round, Becky?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Could you say-
Good news in that realm?
I will give you what I have. So the CARES fund, we still have, we're still spending money on the school, but the biggest issue is biggest disappointment. I had told the select board about the possibility of using some of the funds to give subsidized subscriptions through the MLP for internet service. At this point, that use has been denied by the state level folks, saying that they don't see the money going to a town entity to do that, which makes no sense because it's no different than if they're giving the money to Comcast to do the same thing, or they're giving it to Zoom, but they don't feel it's right for it to go to the town entity, or for the town to pay itself. Well, even though it's not really ourselves. I'm still arguing with them, but we're starting to run out of time. I have to specify the list in a few weeks. I know that Gail has worked hard. She's talked to other towns about ways that they are using funds. And so I wish we could do that. It would be ideal to have our own people subsidized in town through this critical and trying time. But so far it has not worked out. We are going to be able to work with the school on the computers that they recently bought, that can be covered by the CARES Act. We've done a little bit of furniture and things for them, but hopefully Jess has some more things. Or if you do, let me know. We still have a balance in the account. We have not heard from the region. So I hope they don't think we're going to hold back money if they don't come through. We're going to have to resolve that this coming week, one way or the other with them.
Okay.
Becky, this is Gail on the phone. May I speak?
Sure.
Oh, hello.
Hi all. Yeah, so I haven't heard from any of my counterparts in other towns, nor the governor's liaison, about any other kind of creative ways that are allowed to use this CARES Act money for anything related to broadband. One thing I would like to explore is the potential of using this towards some new installations. There's still some people in town who don't have an install, and if they'd like it, maybe we could use this money to offer them the same $200 deal or that other townspeople got during the original sign-up period. The other thing, Becky, I'm wondering is if we can use it not for subscription fees, but to pay for just general expenses of the MLP, like our backhaul expenses or insurance bills or generalized maintenance. I wonder if the problem with using the CARES Act money is kind of going directly to individuals to pay subscription fees, whereas if we use it towards the MLP entity fees, that they'd be more amenable to that. Any thoughts?
I asked that question, and
okay.
You had raised it, and that was also a no.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So I'm not sure where Bill Ennin heard or how, what he heard that how people could use the funds, how the MLPs could use them, but I haven't cracked that nut yet.
I know they're using it for installs and building out you know, like if we had any more roads to build, we could use it for that. The problem is we are past, you know, we've already done it. So that may be the problem. Maybe it has to be directly related to a build out. But I'm almost certain we can use it for installations. I don't want to take up any more of this meeting time. Let me connect with you offline to see if that, you know, we could maybe use it for some of these outstanding installs. Okay.
Sure. Because I'm
Okay,
curious
thanks.
if there are how many families with school children can't access Zoom because they're not installed. I mean, I would think that would be a priority.
It would. My anecdotal research on that is that it's almost nobody. Almost everybody who had school-age kids got an install during the first round of installation because they needed it anyway. So I've only heard of I think 2 households that are looking for an install now who did not get it earlier.
We have new people moving into town. But...
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Becky, is there anything else related to CARES Act?
The only other thing I wanted to bring up was the governor's speech yesterday when he talked about our economic situation for the state was very positive, and a lot of it has to do with how the CARES money has been utilized in the state, and the state is looking towards his budget that he put forward for FY21 that we're halfway through, maintains everything that we had hoped it would, and he's even talking about proposing that for FY22 by level funding UGA money, which is our unrestricted local aid, and also fully funding or grandfathering, setting a level and not going below the FY21 level for local aid and education in FY22. So it's pretty amazing news considering what we've been through this year. So that's a good thing. And a lot of it has to do with the CARES money being used appropriately all over the state and getting us to this point.
Good. Okay, thank you, Becky, for that. Or shall we move on to the status of reopening?
Okay, so not a lot has changed since 2 weeks ago, but everyone is still healthy in all the buildings. Mary Ann's moving ahead faster than anyone else. I think she will be opening to the public in about 2 or 3 weeks after her air filtering system is installed. I guess it's already been installed. It was in the last couple days. So she's moved ahead. I'm still waiting on Jamrog to put in the air filtration system, the new one for Town Hall. But they had already ordered the parts, and that's going to be happening before the election. So the election will have the security of 2 time an hour air exchange in the Town Hall basement. So that's a positive. The early elections start on Saturday, and Grace is going to be utilizing the police department garage, the temporary garage that's down near the town hall, the back of town hall. So we're hoping that that goes smoothly. She'll be putting up cones and one-way walking areas for people who go, and having election workers on site for a couple, Susie, is it a couple hours a day? Yeah, it's 2 hours a day. So things are moving along.
Okay. All right, and now I think we're on to town administrator updates, and I see power outage review also on there.
Yeah, anybody lose their power? And Melissa, I lost it for 2 days.
We didn't go down the road, but the power stayed on.
Yeah. your family couldn't go home. So we had about 6 trees go down all over town, and they managed, well, there were more than 6 trees, but the major trees managed to cut us off. The center of town was cut off from the rest of town in almost every direction except for Locks Pond and Route 202. And so there were a lot of people taking detours. I know a lot of people in town, and it took them 2 hours to get home last Wednesday night. So I think we did okay. Getting the power back on in 2 days isn't terrible, but I think it could have happened faster. There seemed to be a little bit of breakdown in communication on the national grid side with our fire department. So we're following, Walter's following up on that, making sure, we can move faster when possible, because there were trucks in town at least once when they left town without doing any work. And that's not helpful. And we don't want that happening again. The other issue I wanted to talk to you guys about was my office.
Okay.
I will be getting to it. I didn't want you to think I forgot, but things are staying busy for some reason, maybe after the election, or maybe someday soon. I'll find a contractor. Sirius did offer to help me, so I might talk to them as well about my office. And I think that's about all I have right now for you guys. Susie?
Is this the time to talk about the appointment for the deputy constable?
Yes. If that's okay with you, Melissa?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So what is happening is, for the elections, we need a deputy constable to be appointed. And Susie has been busy trying to find someone to volunteer, and Christine has volunteered. Is it Robinson? Christine Robinson has said that she would be willing to do that. And
Okay.
so if we could appoint her so Marilyn has some backup,
Yep.
that would be helpful.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to appoint Christine? Did you give me the last name, Dave?
Listen. Yep, I so moved.
Okay.
And I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Carol, I.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome.
You also had on there a shed update too for administrative updates.
How could I forget the shed? Okay, so the highway department moved the old recycling shed today to the far end of Shed Row. And it has a new home. And no sooner had they moved it than the Board of Health descended with 3 or 4 cars full of all the things they have been hoping to put inside it. So Town Hall has also been cleaned out of a ton of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're more ready for the election. Gabriel Volker has confirmed that the check was cut and is in the mail to pay the town for that shed from the Board of Health. And we will be, and as soon as Meryl gets that word, I'm afraid she's not on anymore. She will be contacting, and the new shed for the recycling committee will be heading our way.
Okay.
Now that she has money to pay it.
Okay, perfect.
And the other thing I wanted to tell you about was a surprise encounter with a solar specialist who fixes solar problems. And he works for a company out east. I'm not sure the name of his company, but he lives in Leverett. He had noted that there was a splice in the line of the in solar panels out back behind the town hall. And I asked if he would help fix them. And because he's an electrician, and because I told him I called 5 different electricians to get them out. Electricians are not very responsive to small jobs right now. And he promised that he would do the work for free, charge the town only for parts. And not only would he fix the 2 cuts there, he went down to the fire station, and there's a piece broke there that we were having trouble with, and he took it in to have it repaired, and he'll fix that, and as well as the inverters that aren't working properly in the fire department. All of it will be done for free, only for the cost of parts. His name is Richard Gallo from Leverett, which is awesome. I'm just very excited to have somebody to help us with all our solar panels.
Yes, and someone you can call on, I think, for the future too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So now we're on to
Linda raising her
Linda, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I just was wondering about the election warrant.
Yep.
That's okay. Yes, we have the election warrant to vote on. Thank you, Linda. It wasn't on the agenda, so I was just going right.
Sorry, I had just emailed it. I actually had that written down for the next thing.
That's fine.
So I move for the select board to sign the election warrant.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. And you'll have this ready tomorrow for us to sign, Becky?
Yes, it's ready.
Okay. All right. Moving on to future agenda items and future action items. Is there anything that we would like to add to our next agenda, or of course, Becky, the reopening plans are always on there, I suppose. When is our next meeting?
The 29th.
29th.
27th?
27th.
27th, sorry.
Maybe we should have Halloween on there too, just to double check in on that.
Okay. And also, there's been a lot of talk around town hall and in the public mind. The last few years, the issue about taxes always comes up. And as we look at the information about taxes, there's a lot of information that could be shared with the public, but finding a way it's digestible and helpful to people. I would really appreciate working on a charge for something such as a tax policy committee that I think the community could benefit from it, and it could be a good place for dialogue if we can get some of our professional people on the team and get to work so that take advantage of some of this Zoom time to have important conversations.
I think that's a good idea, Rita.
Yeah, it's a great idea. What I'd like to see is that there be representation both from town committees as well as from
people,
the public, and not making it so large that it becomes unwieldy. But I think it's we're kind of past due to have this discussion.
Yeah, I think a committee of 5. Is that 2?
I'd say 7.
7, 5 or 7?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
6.
And I think, our administrative assessor, Kevin Rudden, is very interested. I've talked to him a couple of times about this. I think having the finance committee representation, planning board, we can talk about, who else, one select board member, and then some other folks from town. So I think it's going to be 7 to 9 by the time we get.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there should be a committee charge that's laid out that maybe the select board decides upon if we're going to do appointments, and then what the expectation is about getting some kind of a report back.
Yeah, for the timeline.
Yeah, with a timeline. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we could put that on the charge on the agenda of the next meeting?
Yeah.
And see and jump in and start to see where it goes.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're still early, Melissa.
I know. I was not sure that was going to. Linda, did you have a question?
Yeah, one more thing I was wondering about is, Becky, you had sent around in the packet the health guidance policy.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, the illness guidance. Hold on one
So
second.
I just remember
Yeah,
that.
the Board of Health did review it.
Yeah.
And they made a few changes. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yep, the illness advisory. And we should officially vote on this too, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the accept our illness advisory, or to vote it into being?
Yes, so moved.
Okay. And is there any way we can just make this something that the Board of Health can look at once a year with us, maybe, just to make sure?
Idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll put that in the tickler file.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Can we, I did
Sorry,
have a
I'm sorry.
question. So did the Board of Health make changes to what we had talked about, Becky?
They were some small changes in language.
Just wanted to know if it was substantive or if it was
No.
just minor changes. Okay. All right. So I second April's motion.
Okay, sorry. I didn't hear a second. I just kept going. All right. So any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Fine, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Okay. Perfect. Good. Let me go back to the agenda. I think that was,
we have a minutes to approve.
oh, in the minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, minutes.
29th, minutes from the 29th of September.
So I move to approve the minutes from September 29th, 2020.
And I second.
Okay. Is there any edits from the minutes that anyone has?
I didn't see any. They were wonderful. I think.
And thank again, Becky and Linda and Becky for teaming up to do those. Okay, all in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Fine, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, I can. What time are people going up? I can come up tomorrow, 10ish.
Okay, mine would be somewhat near lunch area just because of, or I can even do it toward the evening. So whichever, Rita, were you?
Yeah, I'll be up in the morning sometime.
All right, so I'll come around like lunchtime or something like that and do it then. So Becky, if you, I'll plan on somewhere between 12 and 1 or 12:30 and 1:30. And then if that's a problem, just text me if there's too many people up there. Okay.
Okay. It's a Friday, so it shouldn't be too packed.
No, I know, but I just want to have that in case it is, you know.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, this is Gail again. Can I say a quick thing about a broadband issue before we sign off?
I think so. You've got 8 minutes.
I can do it. I can do it in one. I'm checking in on the surety bond letter to make sure that you got it and wondering if it can be signed. I wasn't here for the beginning, so you may have covered it already, and I didn't know.
I'm sorry. No, it wasn't. I was out yesterday, Gail, so I think did it come in yesterday?
It did. I also copied the select board email address on it. Are you all set with that? Do you have any questions on it?
So what it's about is getting rid of the surety bond for the states. It'll save us
$750. 6750. Yeah. So the letter is pretty self-explanatory, but we're working on this as a kind of a collective level at the state to try and get this removed for all municipal broadband networks It is an unnecessary insurance requirement. We're trying to do it through the DTC through a petition with them rather than working directly with utility companies because frankly, after doing 2.5 years of make-ready work and the amazing frustrations that came with that, the governor's liaison asked me to kind of get this charge going so that all towns don't have to do this individually. We just do it in one swoop. It gets removed for all utilities, for all municipal networks, and it's going to save all these towns across the state, including ours, a lot. It's an annual fee, so $6,700 might not sound like a lot, but you add it up over 20 or 30 years, and all of a sudden it's a significant amount of money.
And this year was our third payment, so we've already spent 20 grand.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it'll be wonderful to have relief.
And the letter is coming from the select board, right, Gail?
Yeah, so what my request for all of you is to sign the letter that I drafted. I'm a co-signer on it below your names, and I've already had a really nice conversation with Natalie Blay about it, and she's also drafting a letter which will accompany our petition to the Department of Telecommunications and Cable.
Okay, so can we vote on that, Melissa?
Yes, go ahead. If you make
Okay, so I'll make a motion that that we do sign on to the letter on the surety bond.
And I will second that.
All right. Any further questions?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
All right, so that'll be in the packet to sign tomorrow.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. That'll let me get that in by November 1st.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for bringing it up, Gail.
Sure thing. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I think that's the end of our agenda for tonight. So shall we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
I second that.
All right. All in favor?
Farrell, aye.
Stein, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Linda, do you have everything?
I am good. I just I'm good. I was just finished typing.
All right.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you had all the stuff.
I think so. I think I'm good. There's someone still.
Okay.
Oh.
Hello, I'm super late. My kids' Zoom ended and then tutoring and things. So I just wanted to briefly say hi, and I know it was a concern about the banner. Is there going to be the minutes somewhere posted so I can read the agenda, or?
Yes, they'll be posted. They'll get up in about 15 days. The main agenda item was just for the select board to finish a letter, to sign a letter for the person who was asking a lot of questions, raising issues, and they tried to answer his issues.
Awesome.
But there were a lot of people at the meeting who did speak.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
And
All
we'll
right.
try to get the video up. The video should be available too.
Perfect. Of course, I have like toddlers and everyone needs my attention. So when I found out, I was super late.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Bye.
bye.
Good night.
Good night.